Delavan Lake, Wisconsin, May 4th, 1912. According to a report in the New York Times, 2 local boys made an extraordinary discovery. 18 skeletons found in a series of ancient burial mounds, and all of them measuring between 7 and 9 feet tall. The enormous skeletons were reportedly submitted to the State Historical Museum, but some say they were later confiscated by the Smithsonian Institution.
There have been finds of giant humanoid bones all over the world, even here in the American Southwest. Yet most of these stories have been suppressed. They're not the kind of thing you read about in anatomy textbooks. You don't ever read about them in the news. They're generally just regarded as myths and legends. The reason why that would be the case is because that would imply that these creatures were not necessarily evolved here on Earth, that they had come from somewhere else.
You have to wonder if they're not half extraterrestrial, half human giants that existed here hundreds and thousands of years ago.
Did ancient humans really have sexual encounters with extraterrestrial beings that resulted in superhuman offspring? But if so, why aren't there giants among us today? Ancient astronaut theorists say the answer can once again be found in the Holy Bible.
Because of the contamination of the human gene pool, God's experiment on Earth was thwarted, and God was not going to be thwarted. And therefore, he chose, I guess we can call Plan B. He sent the flood.
In the Old Testament's book of Genesis, the story of Noah tells of how God saw that the wickedness of man was great and decided to destroy all of creation with a great flood. Noah, his family, and the animals aboard the ark were allowed to survive and repopulate the planet. But ancient astronaut theorists believe there is more to the story that can be found in the Book of Enoch.
In the Book of Enoch, it's recorded that when Noah was born, his body shined, kind of like the glow of Moses' face when he came down from Mount Sinai. When his father saw this, he immediately was appalled, and he turned to his mother, accusing her of being intimate with one of the sons of God.
According to the story, the father, Lamech, received advice from his grandfather Enoch that Noah is to be the future of the human race.
Enoch says he should accept the baby as his own son because the guardians of the sky will destroy the planet with the great flood. And Noah is the survivor of the new generation. And Noah was a mixed creature between extraterrestrials and us. Now we are the descendants of Noah, so we all are part of it. This changed human evolution completely.
I believe almost every culture around the world has a flood legend. There is someone in the place of a Noah. So therefore, the ancient flood was of vital importance, because the world before the flood is very different than the world afterwards. There are continual legends from around the world that in the pre-flood times is an advanced technological civilization where human beings were in touch with beings from the stars. All of this was lost because of the contamination that occurred.
Boston, Massachusetts, October 25th, 1965. A local newspaper known as the Boston Traveler runs a front-page story about the alleged alien abduction of New Hampshire residents Betty and Barney Hill. In the more than 5 decades since this now famous incident, thousands of others have come forward with similar reports of being abducted by extraterrestrials.
What's particularly notable is the fact that during alien abductions, people talk about DNA taken from their bodies and essentially experimented on by these strange, short, black-eyed entities that have become known as the Greys.
As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, an equally chilling aspect of these reported alien abductions is the role that human blood and blood type seems to play in determining which human subjects become the targets of experimentation. New York, New York, 1940. At the Rockefeller Institute, Nobel Prize-winning scientist Carl Landsteiner makes yet another groundbreaking finding in his work surrounding human blood types. Landsteiner discovers the Rh factor, a type of protein or antigen on the surface of red blood cells, setting the scientific world afire.
One of the things about human blood types is we have an Rh, either positive or negative blood type. And it simply has to do with a particular antibody on the outside of our red blood cells. If you have it, you're positive, and if you don't, you're negative.
Landsteiner was the first person to identify the original A, B, and O blood groups. But his latest discovery ignites a much more fascinating mystery underlying the nature of human blood.
One of the most intriguing aspects of the Rh negative versus Rh positive is that science really does not have a specific answer as to why some people should be negative and why other people should be positive.
Just like any virus or bacteria or disease, if you mix these blood types, you can get interesting effects. If you're Rh negative and you get Rh positive blood, the red blood cells look different. They look like an invading bacteria or virus, and your immune system will react to that. And that can lead to various diseases and problems.
When you're in a situation where you have a pregnant woman who is Rh negative and the father is Rh positive, what we find is that the pregnant woman's immune system quite literally views the growing fetus as something alien, no pun intended. In that situation, medicine is provided to ensure that the fetus grows healthy.
How and why the Rh negative blood type developed remains a mystery to scientists. And while the blood type is rare, there appears to be a disproportionately high occurrence of Rh negative individuals among one particular group of people, those who claim to have been abducted by aliens.
I don't think anybody would be able to stand behind a number and firmly know, but maybe 3, maybe even some 4 out of 10 people that you would interview in the abduction syndrome would say, I'm Rh negative.
Could determining the origin of Rh negative humans be the key to uncovering the mystery behind potential human-alien hybrids? Is it possible that a link to an ancient history of Rh negative people could be found in a modern-day population of humans? Basque Country, northern Spain. Wedged between the mountains and the shore, this isolated and unique culture near the border with France contains a genetic heritage rare in most of the world. The Basque people have the highest concentration of Rh negative blood on Earth.
What's particularly fascinating about the Basque people is their huge percentages of Rh negatives in their populations. Typically, it's above 50% in the entire Basque population. What's particularly notable is that in the rest of the planet, across the world, the figures are actually only about 2 to 3%. And because we know that ancient man roamed around those same areas of Spain and France thousands and thousands of years ago. This has given rise to the potential theory that the early humans were also Rh negatives.
While it is unclear exactly what role the Rh negative blood type plays in what many believe to be an ongoing alien hybridization project, there are some who are certain that the ultimate goal is to alter the human race. But why? As far as they are concerned, the answer is clear, because they claim that they themselves are hybrids. Baltimore, Maryland, November 9th, 2018. Thousands gather at the Baltimore Convention Center for Alien Con, a 3-day event dedicated to exploring the possibility that life not only exists on other planets, but that intelligent beings have been visiting the Earth for thousands of years.
I would like to ask this audience at this Alien Con, how many of you have had missing time, an abduction experience, have encountered perhaps an entity in your room, or you have seen some kind of lights, craft that have left you with a feeling that you were seeing or experiencing something that was not human and fits into this category? How many?
Wow, that is an impressive show of hands. That's staggering.
The large numbers of allegedly abducted people in the audience stuns the panel. Equally impressive is the credibility of the stories.
Let me just say I'm a very logical person. He looked at me, he tipped his head down and he looked up. At that moment, his eyes went black, his nose started to turn almost beak-like, and I couldn't break the gaze.
I've had beings walk through the wall. I'm Rh negative, green-eyed. I do have some missing time.
We wake up and we're not in our bedroom anymore. We're laying on tables.
They pulled me up on the ship. They did surgery on me.
I had no idea of what they were doing. And I later found may have been extracting sperm.
But if alien abductions are really happening, what is their purpose? Are extraterrestrials simply examining the human species? Or is there another, even more profound agenda?
The reptilian who visits me on a regular basis. Apparently he realized I was infertile and he backed away.
As I began to do more and more deep research, eventually you come out at another layer. What are we? What are Homo sapiens sapien really? And then you get to my perspective today. The harvest of genetic material from this planet. And so one of our greatest questions is who walks around on our planet, looks human, but is not?
Could human abductions be part of a greater effort by extraterrestrials to hybridize the human species with alien DNA? Many ancient astronaut theorists insist that such an audacious notion is not only likely, but that evidence of it can be documented by means of regression therapy. Barbara Lamb has conducted nearly 2,000 regressions on people who believe they have been abducted by extraterrestrial beings. Most recently, she has been studying the case of California native Robert Fullington, who has, under hypnosis, revealed details of his numerous encounters with extraterrestrials over the course of the past 10 years.
I came to know hybrids 7 years ago, and since then, I've been conducting long interviews and have been doing regressions with them. And out of all that material, I have become convinced that they are indeed ET human hybrids living here on Earth.
I was 215 pounds, and I went down to 115 pounds. And doctors had no idea what was going on with me. I was starting to have experience with ETs. It's things like going to sleep and then becoming aware that something's happening. It's these little tiny blips of real clear ET interactions, and I have no idea what's going on.
A wonderful thing is that our subconscious part of our minds records everything that happens to us, even those things that we have not been consciously aware of.
On June 6th, 2019, Barbara conducted another regression session with Robert.
Okay, nice and comfortable now.
In an effort to find out not only why he had been abducted, but also the specific way in which he might have been genetically altered.
So now we're going to go into a nice state of deep relaxation. More and more deep, more and more relaxed.
People are laying in lines and they're working on people. Like, I'm last in line to be worked on.
Now, are these people in line, are they lying down? Or
yeah, it's like a bunch of tables in a row. I feel like there's something inserting into my stomach. They're extracting something. It's like they're collecting DNA from different people.
In the regression, it turned out that one extraterrestrial actually made an incision and took out DNA. Now that is something that has come across through my work. Some of them seem to be very scientific, and they want to understand how human bodies work and what our physiology is like. In many of the regressions I have done, it turns out that the ETs are creating hybrids for their own purposes.
Mount Olympus, Greece. It is here that the Greek gods known as the Olympians were said to reside. According to the ancient Greek stories, the Olympians often came down from Mount Olympus to intervene in the lives of mortals, aiding them in war, teaching them valuable skills like how to make fire and create weapons, and even mating with them.
There are many, many myths of Zeus having sexual relationships with mortal women, and the mortal women then giving birth to these exceptional children. For example, Heracles, also known as Hercules, is one of the children of Zeus. His mother was Alcmene, who was a mortal woman, and Zeus approached her disguised in the form of her husband. And as a result, she became pregnant and she gave birth to the great hero, Hercules.
One of the aspects of these sexual relationships between gods and humans is that the woman is almost always pregnant as a result of it.
One of the most well-known of these encounters between gods and mortals is the story of Zeus and Leda, a pairing which produced Helen of Troy, the woman whose beauty was said to be the cause of the Trojan War.
Zeus came as a swan and seduced Leda, who's the mother. The fact that Leda was coupling with a swan, even if it was Zeus, means that Helen was born of an egg.
Helen of Troy is born apparently out of an egg. Now, what is going on here? Through the lens of the ancient astronaut theory, we might be able to surmise that maybe Helen of Troy was a hybrid born inside one of those incubation tanks that many modern-day abductees have described. It's interesting to me to compare that to potentially an extraterrestrial event.
Although most people regard the Olympians as purely mythological, the ancient Greeks considered them to be actual beings. This notion was made even more credible in 1870 when German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann uncovered evidence that suggests Troy was a real place.
As the progress of archaeology continues forward, we're validating more and more of these ancient Greek mythologies. So why should we arbitrarily induce a bias into the research that says, oh, all the reports of gods can't be true, even though we're validating everything else with actual empirical data? What if these gods were there? And what if the people of the time were directly interacting with a higher form of intelligence?
Is it possible that the Olympians were not mythological gods, but extraterrestrial beings? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that the Greek stories are more than just mythology, and as evidence, point to similar stories found in a culture thousands of miles away. Jiangsu Province, China. It was here in 247 BC that the founder of the ancient Han Empire was born under mysterious circumstances. Liu Bang, later known as Emperor Gao, was said to have been the product of a supernatural conception.
His mother, who was not pregnant at the time, got caught in a rainstorm. There were very large claps of thunder and wind whipping up, and she fled under a bridge to find shelter. Her husband went to rescue her, and he noticed that there was a dragon hovering above her. So from that point, she basically became pregnant with Liu Bang. He sort of had the appearance of a dragon as well. So many people believe that he was half dragon, half human. And Liu Bang was extraordinary in other respects as well. He came from a peasant family. It was extremely improbable for a peasant to become an emperor in those days.
Liu Bang began Han China, the great empire in China. And so it was thought that somehow this child had not only human origins, but whatever came from this flying presence at the conception factored into who he was.
These various descriptions of ancient flying dragons have similar properties to what we would today call a technological flying craft. A large body, sounds of smoke and fire and great noise.
You have to wonder here if this hovering dragon isn't some kind of fiery or lit up extraterrestrial ship that had hovered over her, and ultimately she was impregnated by these extraterrestrial visitors.